Ahead and kick off today's webinar. Welcome back to the West Virginia Outdoor Economy webinar series. And today we're going to be talking about marketing to the modern outdoor traveler with digital relativity. My name is Corey Lilly. I'm your host here at the Brad and Elise Smith Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative, where our mission is to empower our partners across the state to leverage their outdoors. We do this through multiple programs. We have our talent attraction and retention program on one side of the house, and we have our outdoor economy side, where we deliver programs all across the state to be able to help empower you on the ground. We have our trail training and education program that is a mobile trail lab that's on the road all summer long doing trainings. If you would like a training to come to your community to help with a volunteer crew or any of your professional trail working crews on the ground, please reach out. We'd love to speak with you about opportunities there. Here's a few photos of what it looks like to be out on the ground in some of these classes. We also are really fortunate to partner with so many amazing partners for our West Virginia Outdoor Business webinar series, and this is the first of that series. You see, we have a couple more in the series coming up over the next few months, and we have even more. But we would love if you're interested in collaborating, and if you're a capacity builder or an organization across the state that would like to collaborate to get this type of content in front of your following. We would love to partner with you to hear about the needs of your constituents to be able to get them the education and content that they need. I'm going to pass it over to one of our partners today, Will Miller with the West Virginia Small Business Development Center, to talk about one of his programs. Will, take it away.
Thanks so much, Corey. Um, I am Will Miller with the Small Business Development Center. We are a state agency that covers all 55 counties, and we offer free one-on-one confidential business coaching. So if you know anybody out there or you have a business, maybe an outdoor rec business, and you would like to speak to a free coach about anything from planning to financing to expanding to hiring an employee, we'd be more than happy to uh, to meet with you. One of the programs I'm really excited about is we've partnered with Verizon's Digital Ready platform. And let me try to share my screen here real fast. Oop, can you see?
Your screen. Yep.
Good deal. All right. What we have here is the Verizon Digital Ready platform that is absolutely free, is with a partnership with the SBDC. And the way this works is all you have to do is follow the link that I'm going to put in the chat, giving Verizon just a little bit of information which they don't share with anybody. And then you'll have access to over 50 courses ranging anywhere from financing to social media to AI to intellectual property, cybersecurity, wellness. That really runs the gambit. It's a really simple, great platform designed to let you learn at your own pace. It's all online, it's all self-paced. Most of the modules are under 30 minutes, so it's not something that you need to carve out a lot of time for. For example, we have one here, social media marketing, keeping conversation going. We're going to have Pat here in a second, I'm sure, who's going to be able to really give us some good insights on this. But if this is something you're interested in, you just click on it and it brings you to the course. You can start watching the course. You can see a preview. There's a little intro quiz to give you an idea of what you do know and what you may not know. And if you're curious, there are details about the presenter. And the nice thing about the presenter is all the presenters are entrepreneurs themselves. So they have lived it, breathed it, and done it. So, like I said, 100% free, lots of great information. Would really encourage anyone to go take a peek at it. And as soon as I get off here, I will put the link into the description. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to turn it back over to Corey.
Thanks so much, Will. Really appreciate that. And we'll drop more information in the chat. And then also we'll have a follow-up email that goes out to all the participants that you can get the information to be able to reach out to Will about the program. So I'm super excited to now to introduce our featured presenter, Pat Strader, Chief Innovation Officer and President of Digital Relativity. Take it away, Pat. Thanks so much. You're muted.
I've been doing this for a long time. Um, if you guys wouldn't mind, let's just hold questions to the end. That way, oh shoot. That way we have plenty of time. Can you guys see my screen, or are you seeing the presenter notes or something like that? Seeing
We're good.
something? What's
We can
that?
see you. We can see you.
Okay.
But we actually see your speaker notes,
yeah.
not the whole screen.
All right. About now.
Yes, yeah, we can see it.
Sorry about that.
Thanks. And for everyone on the call, to help Pat know who's in the room, if you wouldn't mind dropping your name, organization into the chat so we can see who's here. Thanks so much. Take it away, Pat.
Let me find. Oh, goodness gracious. Sorry, you guys. Hold on one second. I don't know what happened here. Okay. Now I lost Zoom. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay. Do you see my deck?
It is loading right now.
Man, I don't know what is going on with this.
Pat, we've all been here, man. Every single person on the call has had this
Yeah.
happen to them. You're in good company. You're in West Virginia. We all love you and support you. So don't worry. Just take a deep breath. You got
Well, I don't even know what the hell happened. Let's see
it.
here. Sorry, you guys. We had it all loaded up, ready to go.
Yeah, we were rock and roll. Tech, it never wants to work with you when you need it.
It's trying.
There,
Yay.
we got it.
There it is.
All right, thank you guys. I appreciate you. So, what I'd like to do again, if we could just kind of hold questions till the end, that'd be great. I've built in plenty of time here for us to discuss some of these things, but I'm really excited to share some of this information with you. And I just wanted to start with a story from my days as a whitewater rafting guide on the New and the Gauley rivers. And every morning I would get my crew of 6 to 8. They'd all paid the same amount of money, signed up for the same trip. But within about the first 5 minutes of being on the water, it became very clear what I had to work with. Some of them, they wanted the big ride. They were asking me how big the next rapid was. They were hoping, genuinely hoping, that we were going to get wrecked so that they had stories to tell when they got back to the office. The others, well, they were white knuckle strap grabbing. They were praying. They were reconsidering their life choices. And some of them, I am pretty sure, didn't want to get wet at all. Same river, same boat, completely different people. And I'm Pat Strader. I'm the president and I'm the chief innovation officer at Digital Relativity. We're a marketing agency based in Charleston, and I have personally spent more than 25 years working in the Appalachian tourism marketing, spending time on West Virginia rivers, watching people react to whitewater, which it turns out was better preparation for this than just about any other marketing course I could have possibly ever taken. Because what I learned on the river is the same thing that the research has confirmed 2 decades later, that there is no single traveler. And when you try to market to all of them the same way, you end up reaching none of them very well. And so before we go any further, I want to establish something important and something that changes the whole frame for every marketing conversation that we have. That's West Virginia's outdoor products are truly world class. And our research asked travelers about their perception of West Virginia before and after visiting. Before visiting, 27% said that they had a very positive perception of the state. Well, that number's not great, but here's what happens after they come. After visiting, that number would jump to 59%, more than double. And 83% say that they would return. And among travelers who have visited multiple Appalachian states, 42% say that West Virginia is their favorite. And when asked what stood out, 86% said the scenery, 53% said the state and the national parks, and 52% said the activities and the experience. And so the experience converts people. West Virginia earns its visitors once they get here. So the challenge, really the only challenge, is getting the right people here the first time. That's a marketing problem. That's not a product problem at all. And so what is the actual marketing problem? Fast forward years later, I'm sitting in a marketing meeting with an outfitter which shall remain nameless. And we're talking about who we're trying to reach and what we're trying to do and who their target audience is and who are we making this campaign for. And the owner, he looked at me across the table and he says, I'm trying to reach anyone from ages 9 to 99 with money. No joke, right? My internal reaction was essentially, obviously. And I already knew that. I spent years on the river watching exactly that walk down to the put in every single morning. And here's the thing, that answer is not just one company's answer. It's the answer of many others in the marketing world, just dressed up in a nicer language, wrapped in a demographic report, maybe has a stock photo and a tagline. But underneath it all, it's the same assumption that there is one traveler. And they get it. It's a completely reasonable assumption when you're working with a small team, a tight budget. You've got 17 other things on your plate to do, and you just don't have time to build 4 different marketing strategies. Nobody does. But here's what I want to show you today, is that you don't have to build 4 different strategies. You just have to stop assuming that there's only one type of traveler. Because that assumption is costing us all money right now. Not someday, but every campaign, every dollar, every piece of content that you create. And I've got the research to prove it. So a few years ago, I got tired of the industry guessing at this kind of question. So Digital Relativity, we commissioned some original research. It's not a literature review. It's not a survey of our own clients, your clients. We surveyed thousands of travelers across the US and Canada, real people who had actually traveled to or within the United States in the prior year. And what came back confirmed everything that the river had already taught me. And that says there is not just one type of traveler. And in fact, our research surfaced 4. And once you know who they are, everything changes. And so before I introduce you to the 4 traveler types, I'm going to spend just a few minutes on where they came from, okay? Not to walk you through a methodology report. I promise I'm not doing that. But because what you're about to see is only useful if you trust it. And you can only trust it if you understand how it was built. And so we worked with Audience Audit, an independent research firm, and we surveyed thousands of people again across the United States and Canada. Every single one of them had traveled to or within the United States in the prior year. And these were not people that were recruited from client lists. These were not people who had already visited West Virginia. These were real travelers. They were broadly sampled, and a margin of error of 1.7 percentage points at a 95% confidence level. That's a tighter margin than most political polls that you see in the news, but here's the part that matters most. We didn't just sit down before this research and say, okay, we think there are 4 types of travelers. Let's go find them. We didn't build the categories first and then sort people into them. Okay. That is how a lot of audience research ends up being done. And it's also how you end up with results that confirm what you already believed. And in fact, our research partner came to me and asked me point blank, what do you want to be proven wrong about? And so we approach things a little differently. We ask travelers a wide range of questions about their attitudes, their behaviors, their priorities, and their concerns on the road. And then we let the statistical analysis find the patterns for us. And the segments that came back were not our invention, they were already there in the data. We just simply gave them names. But that distinction matters because it means that these 4 types are not a marketing framework that somebody built in the conference room. They are a reflection of how real travelers actually think. And so that brings me to one of the single most important methodological points of this entire webinar. And that is that the demographics tell us who someone is. But the attitudes, well, they tell us what they will do. And think about what demographics actually give us, right? Age, income, zip code, gender. Those things are important and they tell us things. But they don't tell you whether someone is the person that's leaning in the raft, wanting to flip, the person that's white knuckling, the strap grabbing, and hoping that they make it through dry. Those 2 people with identical demographics can want completely opposite things from that same outdoor experience. You see it in the data. I've seen it on the river. And attitudes are the variable that actually predicts the behavior. What do we believe about that traveler? What do you need before you feel safe enough to commit? What does a good trip feel like to you? And those questions sort people in ways that age and income simply can't. And that's why this research is built on attitudes. And that's why what you're about to hear is more useful than any demographic report. And all right, we're looking at these attitudes versus the demographics. So let's meet them. 4 traveler types. Each one, this is a natural grouping that emerged from the data, and each one with different motivations, different concerns, and a completely different relationship with the marketing. And it's really interesting to me when we look at these, the enthusiastic immersives, trendy planners, cautious budgeters, and independent explorers. It's almost a quarter of the traveling population into each one of these buckets. No single segment dominates, which means that if we're only speaking to one of them, we are, in theory, roughly ignoring 75% of the people who could be coming to our destination. So let's take a look at them one at a time. And first, the enthusiastic immersives. This first type is the one that most outdoor organizations are already reaching, whether they know it or not. The enthusiastic immersives, these are travel super fans, okay? They are always looking for new opportunities to go somewhere. They get inspired when a friend visits somewhere that's interesting, and they have this mental list of dream destinations that they're actively working towards. And the process of planning a trip is genuinely exciting to them. And so what did we find that they want? They want authentic. They want off the beaten path experiences. And they want to live like the locals and immerse themselves in a place, not just pass through it. And they're looking for as many experiences as possible that they can enjoy the journey as much as the destination itself. And they behave in ways that matter for our work. They take more trips per year than any other segment. They trust more information sources than any of the other travelers, which means that your content has a real shot at reaching them. And they are the most likely of any of these segments to turn to local residents for recommendations. They use their phones when they're in market to find activities after they arrive. And they are the most likely to change their plans mid-trip based on what they discover while they're boots on the ground. They participate in a wider range of activities than any of the other segments. And so let's think about that last one in particular, and that is that an enthusiastic immersive, they're not wanting to come to West Virginia just to do one thing. They come to do six. They might start on a trail, end up on the river, stop at a local farm stand on the way back to their tent. They're the traveler who extends a 2 day trip to four because they kept finding something else worth doing. And so, what does this mean for us? Well, these travelers, they really reward the in-depth and the authenticity of a destination. And conservation stories, local partnerships, hidden gem recommendations land with them in a way that simply don't with some of the other types. And don't just show them your highlight reel, show them what most people miss. And these folks, they are also your best advocates. They're the ones that are most likely to tell other people about West Virginia. They are the most likely to come back. And they're also the most likely to leave a review that actually converts someone else in their same segment. And the enthusiastic immersive doesn't need you to tell them West Virginia is worth visiting. They're already looking. They just need to find you. Next, we have the trendy planners. Now, this is the largest segment, 27%. So you can see it's almost evenly split, but still, they are the largest segment of these four. And they're probably the traveler that your marketing is most designed for. Okay. Even if you've never called them the trendy planners, you are probably already working to find them. And these are highly structured travelers. They want expert guidance. They start planning when they find someone to travel with, and they do extensive research before they feel ready to commit to anything. And they expect us to provide digital resources, which isn't a preference for them, it's an expectation. And they want attractions that everybody is talking about. Reviews from other travelers tell them everything that they need to know. They want an itinerary. Shocking. That's the one that I got proven wrong about, by the way. And some of them want their entire trip planned down to the very minute. And they are completely comfortable in admitting that. And so, how do they behave? They are significantly more likely to be under the age of 30. There's our demographics. And they're more likely to say that watching destination videos is important when they are planning. Again, they expect digital resources and they want that expert guidance, structured recommendations, and they find it really genuinely stressful to travel without plans that are arranged in advance. This isn't necessarily the traveler who wants to discover West Virginia, okay? This is the traveler who wants to be told West Virginia is the right choice with evidence. And so here's the interesting thing about these folks, the trendy planners. They are explicitly asking for what many are already creating. The curated itineraries, they want that. Expert recommendations, they want that too. Video content, they definitely want that. And a strong review presence is essential. And the question for most of us is not whether you're producing the right content for this segment. You probably already are, okay? The question is whether it's visible, trusted, and easy to act on when a trendy planner goes looking. Because if a trendy planner researches for a West Virginia outdoor itinerary and they don't find a credible, well-reviewed answer quickly, they don't dig faster or deeper rather. And they move on to the next destination that's already done that work. This segment is not overly hard to reach, and in fact, they're actively looking for you. And the question is whether they can find us. Next up, the cautious budgeters. This is a segment that a lot of the outdoor marketing either ignores or accidentally alienates at times. And the cautious budgeters, they are cost and safety conscious travelers, and they worry about being able to afford the experiences that they want. And they only travel to destinations where they know that they will feel safe, not comfortable, but safe. And they want to avoid crowds. They want to avoid the touristy places and to avoid the kind of experience where they feel like they overpaid or were caught off guard. They are always looking for ways to save, They like quiet, crowd-free experiences, and those types of things genuinely appeal to them. And the way that they behave is that they prioritize cost, safety, and this one was one that stood out to me, cell phone service when they are planning a trip. They are significantly more likely to check their budget status while they're on the trip, and they find it stressful to travel without plans that are arranged in advance. Again, they value those quiet experiences over the popular attractions. And so when you think about what that means for West Virginia, a cautious budgeter, they're looking at a trail that doesn't have clear difficulty ratings, no mention of cell coverage, and a few reviews mentioning how crowded it gets on the weekend. And that trail just got knocked off the list. Not because it's bad, but it's because there was not enough information for them to feel confident. And transparency with this group is everything. And I mean that in the most practical sense possible, and that's clear pricing, honest difficulty ratings, safety information that does not require you to dig for it, cell coverage notes. And here's the important one too, that I know that many of you are working on is wayfinding that actually works. Reviews that mention what to expect, and not just how beautiful the trip is, but what they can genuinely expect to see. And infrastructure investments, they directly influence whether these cautious budgeters choose a destination. Again, cell service in remote areas, it's not just a convenience. And for this segment, it's actually a prerequisite. Clear trailhead signage is not nice to have. It's what keeps them from turning around. And the flip side of that is that when you do earn the cautious budgeter's trust, your pricing is clear, your information is honest, the experience matches what you said it would be, they are very loyal. They return to places that they trust. They recommend places where they feel safe and informed. And West Virginia's natural character of uncrowded, honest, not overly tourist is genuinely well suited for this segment. And you just have to make that case with your information, not just your imagery. Next up, we have the independent explorers. This is the fourth and final type, but this is the one that will fundamentally change how we think about what our marketing can and cannot do, okay? The independent explorers, these are the folks that go where the wind takes them. Planning is not just something that they skip, it's something that they actively resist. Their favorite way to travel is to arrive at a destination without any plans, and they decide what to do as they go. So, what do they want? They want to be surprised. They prefer travel to feel like a choose your own adventure, and they are not looking for the best itinerary. They're looking for the next interesting thing that's right in front of them. And how they behave, they trust fewer information sources than any other segment. And they're more likely than any other type to find the aspirational content annoying. They take just a few days to decide to go somewhere, and they spend less time between deciding and departing. And they're significantly less likely to travel with others. They are the least concerned about safety, cost, or detailed planning of any of the segments. And the critical insight about the independent explorers that's going to save us all some heartache is that our research confirms that independent explorers are the least likely of any segment to be influenced by marketing to visit Appalachia. Yeah, the least likely to be influenced by marketing. They're not reading your website before they come. They're not watching our videos. They're not following our Instagram account. And the decision to come to West Virginia, if it happens, happens fast and on a whim. And once they arrive, they discover you on the ground or they don't. And so, what do you do with the segment that your marketing has difficulty reaching? You stop trying to reach them in the same way you reach everybody else. You invest in the things that actually work for them. Ensure that all of your Google Maps listings, your local listings are accurate. Make sure that your area trailhead signage, your word of mouth from locals, in destination presence that makes it easy to discover something great without planning for it. And the independent explorer, they're not going to find us through a campaign, but they might find the trail because the signage at the highway turnoff was clear. They might walk into your outfitter because a local at the coffee shop mentioned it. They might stay an extra night because your town made it easy to find the next thing without any effort. And understanding this segment, they also gives us something valuable, and that's permission. Permission to stop trying to reach everyone in the same way. Our campaign budget is not failing with independent explorers. It just was really unlikely to work on them. And that's not a flaw of the marketing. It's just how this segment operates. So make sure that you invest in your in-destination presence for these independent explorers and let the campaigns work for the other three segments. So now that we've talked about the four traveler types, I want to show you how many of them are actually finding their outdoor experiences. Because understanding the types is only half the picture, and the other half is knowing where and how that they make their decisions. And so there are a few findings here that I think should immediately change how some of us are looking at our marketing budgets. And that is starting with the one that surprises almost nobody, but still it does not get the attention that it deserves, and that is that Google dominates discovery. Now, we know that things are changing in the age of AI, but still, many people are going to Google, even if they're using the AI mode. 57% of travelers say that they rely on Google for reviews. Two-thirds use Google Maps to navigate unfamiliar destinations. And I don't say this to suggest we should spend more on Google Ads. That's not it at all. I say this simply because Google is not just a marketing channel. It's the road that travelers use to find us and to find things to do. And if our Google presence is inaccurate or incomplete, it's not being managed, then it doesn't matter what your website looks like or how good your social media is. Because travelers are going to be making decisions about our destination or our business before they ever get to the website. And your Google business profile, I can't stress this enough, it's not optional. Your Google Maps listings, accuracy is not optional. And for every single segment in this study, the first place they look is often Google. And for independent explorers, it might be the only place that they look. And when we think about the videos and reviews, our reviews, these are the most trusted source of travel information across all four of the segments. More trusted than aspirational content, more trusted than social media posts, more trusted than your website. Think about what that means for how we invest our time, right? A well-managed review presence on Google, TripAdvisor, trail apps, whatever the case may be, it does more to influence travel decisions than most of the other content we spend hours creating. And on video, 1 in 3 travelers say that watching these destination videos is very important when planning. Half prefer videos under 3 minutes. That's not new information to many of us, but I wanted to stress that. And YouTube leads 60% of travelers prefer YouTube. But travelers under 40, they split their time and their attention across multiple platforms. TikTok, 38%, 35% on Instagram. And the format that works is short, specific, and authentic, not overly produced. A real nice view, a real campsite at sunrise. That is what converts the real, authentic types of content. And 65% of travelers, once they are in destination, are using phones to find activities after they arrive. 52% are actually asking locals for recommendations. Travelers under 40, they're less likely to stop at a visitor center. I don't think that's surprising to anybody, or talk to any of the locals directly. And our in-destination presence, again, it truly matters. When somebody shows up, when someone searches for things to do in our area right now from their phones, or standing in the parking lot, that's your in-destination marketing. It's not on a brochure rack. It's on your Google listing, your trail apps presence, your signage, and the information that your staff and locals can give when somebody asks. And one more finding that I think is interesting to highlight here, because it matters specifically to us, is that political beliefs have no association with traveler type. And these segments, they cut across all of the political lines entirely. And most travelers in the research disagree that they feel uncomfortable visiting places where people hold different political views. And so we know that West Virginia deals with a media narrative that, the data doesn't support the hesitation. Most people who want to come here, they're not deterred by any type of politics. They are deterred by uncertainty about safety, about costs, about what to expect. And those are the barriers that we need to pay attention to. So here's the critical point. Everything that I've just shown you is that the different traveler types, they use these tools in completely different ways. The enthusiastic immersives and the trendy planners, they are significantly more likely to say social media posts inspire them to travel. Independent explorers and cautious budgeters are not, which means that a social media strategy that's built around aspirational and inspirational destination content will land well with over half of the potential audience and will have almost no effect on the other half. That's okay. And a single digital strategy that will not reach all four of the types, it was never going to. And now that you know that, we can stop wondering why our campaigns are not working as well as they could be at times and start thinking about which segments are actually best positioned to reach and what tools actually work for them. I want to be honest with you about something too before I give you this next section, is that I'm not going to tell you to build four separate marketing strategies. That's just not going to happen. Nobody here has the budget or the team for that. And that's not a realistic takeaway from this webinar either. What I'm going to give you is a simple framework for thinking about which segments that our organizations are currently positioned to reach and which ones that we may be inadvertently missing or actively even alienating. Because sometimes the most valuable thing that you can do is stop doing one thing that's costing you before you start adding something new. So, a couple of practical examples here. Organization that leads with conservation storytelling directly to the enthusiastic immersives. It's good. But you might be missing the cautious budgeters entirely if you're not also providing clear difficulty ratings, honest notes about cell coverage, and specific safety information about the trails. Because those same trails can serve both segments, but only if the information is there. If you're an organization that invests heavily in itinerary content and review generation, you are set up perfectly for the trendy planners. And that content, it's going to do its job, but make sure that it is surfaced where trendy planners are actually look, which means your Google presence, not just your website. And a beautiful itinerary that doesn't show up in search is not going to reach the people who need it. If you are an organization that clearly lists your pricing, shows people exactly what to expect from the experience, it maintains this accurate and up-to-date Google business information, you are serving the cautious budgeters without even creating a dedicated campaign. You're already doing that, and that matters. And for any organization that assumes signage, especially Google Maps accuracy, and local word of mouth are someone else's responsibility, you're losing the independent explorers before a single campaign is ever run. Not because your marketing is bad, but because the in-destination infrastructure is not where they are when they arrive is not there, and when they're looking for the next thing to do. And so the question that I want you to sit with after this webinar is, just think about which of these four travelers is your organization best positioned to serve right now? And which ones are you most likely ignoring? Not on purpose, but just because we've never had a framework for thinking about them in this way. And so that question alone, honestly answered, is worth more than any marketing plan. And I just want to, before we open this up with two questions, I just want to kind of call back to that river example that I gave you. Every morning on that river, I would load the boat with 8 strangers. Some of them wanted to flip, some didn't want to get wet, but I couldn't change the river. I couldn't change who showed up, but I could pay attention to who was in the boat and adjust how I guided the trip accordingly. And that's what this research is intended to give you. It's not a new river, It's not a new product. It's just a clear picture of who is in the boat with you. And West Virginia's outdoor experiences, they are already extraordinary. The people who come here know it. And our job is to help the right people find their way to the put-in for the first time. And so with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have.
And feel free, anyone, to come off of mute to ask a question. There was one question in the chat that popped up while you were presenting, Pat, that said,
Yeah.
"What did you say about visitor centers?" There's something you mentioned about visitor centers.
Yeah. So the younger demographics in the and I know we're talking about attitudes here, but the younger demographics within the independent explorers are very unlikely to go to some of the traditional sources of travel information. But again, that's just one part of the four segments. It doesn't mean that any of the things that we're already doing are not valuable or any less valuable. It's just understanding how some of these different groups where they seek the information as they're planning their travel. That I think is the important point to take away.
Got it. So that might be they may be looking for things in a town like wayfinding that points them to like a, maybe a pub or like some sort of concert venue or something. Is that what I'm picking up? Like once they
Yeah, yeah. So they are going to be getting their information from these other sources, the wayfinding. That was a recurring theme, and I know that many of you have been working really hard on the wayfinding projects throughout the state, and it was just really interesting to see that as being a recurring theme. But for some of these groups, that's what they rely on. They are literally, the independent explorers in particular, they are not looking at your website. They're not going and grabbing a traditional brochure. They're using those wayfinding signs, for example, or if they walk into the coffee shop and they speak to somebody about where they should go, that's the type of information that one particular segment really covets.
got it. Eric, I see your hand up.
Hey, great presentation, Pat, and good to see a lot of familiar faces here. Um, uh, I'm curious about us as West Virginia competing with other destinations. So across all these different segments, like how do we position ourselves so that we're getting traffic that might otherwise go to the Laurel Highlands or the, Western North Carolina? How do we make ourselves more competitive here?
Yeah, well, and again, I think kind of understanding each of these segments is really helpful. I mean, when we spoke about the demographics, of course, those are important. I'm not by any means saying that they're not. But when we look about these attitudes and how people are finding information, it's, you know, again, for some of them, they want that pricing. That needs to be clear. The unambiguous presentation of this is what you should expect. Some of the trendy planners, for example, I mean, they are the ones that are like, where's the most Instagrammable spot in the area? And so showing each of these segments the things that are most interesting to them with our content, again, that doesn't mean that I'm not suggesting that we go create a piece of content that like, okay, we check that box, we check that box, we check that box, because then it starts to get muddy. But with some of those things that we're working to promote is just, again, we have the product. Let's just do our best to ensure that we are presenting it authentically, honestly, and unambiguously, because I think that that's a big issue. It's your question about, competing with other areas. It's always been there, it always will be. And it's just a matter of us doing our job to properly showcase the extraordinary resources and products that we have here in West Virginia.
Great, thank you.
Amber in the chat dropped a question. Can you speak to how to blend marketing for an attitude split family? So speaking on behalf of an
Yeah.
enthusiastic, immersive, married to a budget cautious.
Yeah, great question. And I think that that's where trying to understand who is planning the trip, right? Appealing to the trip planner is obviously, the most important piece there. But, I think that, again, just accurately representing the product that we have, and speaking to it in a way that can appeal to multiple of these groups. But, I think that a lot of times, trying to understand who would be the ideal trip planner for this type of thing that I'm trying to present to them. It's a great question, and it is challenging at times because you are having to make some assumptions on who is actually doing the travel planning in the research there.
Heidi, I see you have your hand up.
Hey, Pat, so great to thank you as always. You give us such great intel, and I love how you base this off of data versus kind of what we think, because then obviously our analytics are going to show if we're marketing to our own avatar, that avatar is going to show up more. Hey, just from my background in tourism and now switching much more to the outdoor rec economy and kind of looking at who's on this call, this is something that I've seen come up on cruising LinkedIn. And I was like, wow, this could be West Virginia. We really could, be the state that kind of leads in this space. But do you have any thoughts on like the difference between a DMO kind of marketing mentality and a DMMO, bringing right into that fourth type and understanding really the tie into community and community management? Do you have any thoughts on that, or
That's
have
a
you
great question, Heidi. And,
touched
and
on that at all?
the destination management is certainly a topic that is being discussed throughout travel and tourism. You can go to just about any state travel and tourism conference, and that topic is going to come up. I think that the trendy planners are the ones that I think create the biggest issue for us in terms of managing, like say load on a trail, right? um, because that's what they want. That one group, that's the thing that they want is the most popular, the trendiest, what's going to get them the most likes or thumbs up or whatever their platform of choice is. And interestingly enough, I think that the other three groups can contribute to destination management by presenting them with off-peak times, off the beaten path. I know that's cliche, but some of the trails that we know are great but underutilized and could save some of the load from some of the more popular places. So I think that actually looking at these four different types of groups can really, if we get real smart about it and we really think about it, can really help us manage some of those issues that come with the overcrowding and the destination management piece. So I think that there's a lot that can be done there. And Heidi, I hope that I answered did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting to think about like how CVBs and tourism marketers, how the wayfinding and those issues, especially for the independent explorers,
Yeah.
like when something isn't well marked, it ends up impacting, and that maybe the bigger tourism world, we could all kind of the partnership between understanding how it's all connected, I guess, a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll because of our work with so many different CVBs, both here and out of state, I think that when I made the comment about like ensuring that our organizational content or our trails and things like that are represented properly in, say, Google Maps and things like that, that it's not somebody else's responsibility. And so, like on the CVB side of things in particular, if you have a listing on one of the CVB websites, you need to make sure that it's accurate. That's incumbent upon you and I as much as it is anybody else. So ensuring that your local content is clear and accurate. I mean, and especially, sorry, I'm going to start kind of gravitating in a different topic, but the importance of this, it goes beyond just what I'm speaking to here. As we're kind of moving into this age and like everybody keeps asking the question, how do I get found by AI? It's very similar, right? We need to make sure that your Google local listings and all of those types of things are as complete and accurate as possible. And that in turn helps all these other things kind of bubble to the surface as well. And it helps some of these segments that we're discussing that again, they don't go to your website, they're sitting there on their phone. And if your listing on Google is wrong, if it says that you closed at 5, but your dinner service is actually still running until 8:30, you probably just lost somebody right there. So again, I think that there's a ton of opportunity right now for all of us to do some really engaging things based upon this research that can be helpful, but just the way that people find information now. And again, coming back to the age of AI findability, all these things play in hand.
Mhm. Really appreciate that insight. I got so many like things turning in my head that I'm thinking about, and especially around this, independent explorer idea. Once someone's on the ground and
Yeah,
finds something else, like I'm almost thinking when we're developing out trailheads and trail kiosks, like not only should we talk about what's at that particular trail system to cover everything that they need there, but maybe plug the next trail system over if their experience is like, is this overcrowded for you? Do you want to see somewhere else? Then that's someone who might want to move away from the budget spot
I
or
think that's perfect, Corey. I think that that's a great way to be thinking about it because that's what these people are looking for. They're like, here I am. I want to do this. What am I going to do next? Well, let's help them. Let's
hmm.
point them in the right direction.
Love it.
That's a
Amy, I
great
see
idea.
that you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Corey, and thank you, Pat, for this research and for
Yeah.
sharing your insights. Really appreciate it. I was wondering about two things. First, whether you can expand upon how you were wrong about itineraries
Yeah.
with, I think you said the trendy planners audience. I'd kind of just like to know more about your thinking about that. And also, I think I'm trying to square in my head these audience types and different forms of outdoor recreation.
Yeah.
Like you told us that you encountered every type out on the river doing this thrill-seeking kind of activity. And can we expect that in bike packing? Can we expect that in gravel cycling, etc.?
Yeah. Great questions. Um, and I'm trying to process the questions here. So, kind of thinking about how I was actually, as I was putting this together, one of the things that came to mind to me is like how you manage the different segments that may be together is, you know, and again, I'm going to use my frame of reference as the river. But like, when your trip leader is understanding quickly, trying to read the room and understand um, who is looking for what, and then placing them with the proper guide. Guide A, we know is maybe a little more conservative. Let's give them, the folks that we want to feel safe. So it's really just kind of managing um, the expectations and then us doing our job of ensuring that we're giving them that type of experience that they're looking for. And the first question you asked me was to expand on which one? I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's all right. The itineraries, like
Yeah, the
what
itineraries.
did
Thank
you
you.
think that audience would want?
Well, so again, when we started this research project, Susan Baer is the president of Audience Audit. That's the organization that we worked with, and she's fantastic. She's done research for all different types of industries and segments. And when she said to me, "What is it that you want to be proven wrong about?" Well, some of the things that I personally was working through, but then us as an organization and the people that we work with is one, I wanted to know if people like how much people were actually using brochures. And especially when you start thinking about like the cost of paper and just, the work that goes into those things that we've always just kind of been like, well, we need to produce this because we've always done it, right? Um, and I honestly doubted just how much people would use those. But it turns out that there are some of these segments that rely on that because it's trusted and it's something that allows them to plan. The itineraries, this was probably just a personal travel bias of my own, I'm going to say, because, I'm not somebody that really relies on itineraries. Um, and the itineraries that if I've ever used them that are more useful are the ones that are like that gives you these options, right? Like if you're here, you can do one of these three things. I mean, it turns out some of these folks, they want it planned. I mean, like almost like to the hour for them. Because then it gives them, I guess, the mental relief of like, all right, I don't need to plan this. I'm going to rely upon this expert that has put together this itinerary for me. So a long-winded way of saying is that we all probably have our own personal, I'll say bias, on what works and what doesn't. Truth of the matter is, it all works if you put it in front of the right people at the right time. And so, one of the big lessons for me from this was we have to be mindful of all of these different touch points and inspiration points and how people find where they go and what they do. Um, but it's just, for me, is this has been a real clarifying experience to help us when we are working on strategies that we are ensuring that we're trying to speak to each of these different mindsets.
Curious. Oh,
Thank
go
you.
ahead. I mean, do you have an, oh,
I was just saying thanks.
Yeah.
yeah. Any other questions before I bring up another one? Curious, are there variations across the attitude types, personality types in spending? Like who's going to spend the most money, I guess, out of all the folks?
That's a good question. And I'm sure that it's I mean, the research, we have the raw files. And we're really just kind of scratching the surface on that. That's not something that we have surfaced, but, we're going to continue revisiting this. And I think that in the very near future, it's going to be really interesting to see the types of source material that people are relying on when they travel. But that's a great question, Corey, and I can go back and maybe I can do a little digging here and see if we can find, even a couple little pieces of, scent of information, if you will. I mean, if I'm making an assumption here, it's going to be our trendy planners. They're looking for those um, the things that are again most popular on Instagram. Where's the most Instagrammable? Where's the most popular? Where do I have to go wait in line for an hour to get in because I
Mhm,
want to say that I've been there?
mhm,
So
mhm.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the trendy planners, but I would need to surface that data to give you a real concrete answer.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah. And I was even thinking, I was like, the enthusiastic, immersive, maybe
Yeah,
they stay a couple more days or something like that. That like, and then the combination of the trendy planner and immersive, I don't know. But I feel like there's also a ton of people who use West Virginia in particular as a travel corridor. So you might just get those unexpected, maybe it was the independent explorers segment. I forget which segment, or maybe the budget cautious folks that just kind of don't do any research and happen upon the space.
yeah, the explorers. Yeah, they're a little averse to overly planning.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah,
So maybe those the folks who travel from Canada all the way down to Florida each year or something,
yeah.
you know, or how many folks travel over the New River Gorge National Park like bridge and don't realize they're passing over a national
Right,
park.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, any
Awesome.
other last questions from the group?
I dropped one in the chat. Just curious if any personality type is more or less likely to become a future resident.
I think and it's a great question. I don't think, we didn't really try to surface that specifically just yet, but my guess is going to be the enthusiastic immersives. I mean, they are genuinely the traveler type that they want to live like the local. Um, and so I think that they're probably one of the ones that would be most prone to that, um, just because of the way that they view how they travel into a space, and that is trying to become part of it.
Well, it sounds like a great research project that we'd be happy to work on with you. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, love that. And maybe after some more of these data has been revealed, we can have you back on for a future webinar to kind of
Sure.
to bring
Yeah.
it. That'd be great. Well, everyone, it is the appointed hour. I really appreciate everyone's time and joining us today for this webinar. And Pat, thanks to you so much for all of this research and sharing all of your insight and expertise with us. It was incredibly insightful for me, and it seems like quite a few other folks got some good nuggets to walk away with. So really appreciate you, and thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great day.